Tom Fontana is one half of the producing team which brought us the Emmy Award-winning NBC drama Homicide. This Saturday on HBO, he and his partner Barry Levinson debut a groundbreaking adult drama, Oz. Set inside an experimental urban prison, Oz brings the viewer into an angry world unlike any previously seen on network television. Without the standard restrictions on language, violence, and nudity, this series attempts to portray the realities of prison life. With us tonight to talk about the series is the writer and producer, Tom Fontana, and I am pleased to have him here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Boy, you're getting a lot of attention, too.
I know, it's
New York Magazine.
Yeah.
You know, embarrassing, is it?
It's embarrassing. You know, a writer is basically a guy who's trying to hide out. And
yeah. Tell me about Oz, because I want to show some, how it came into being. What do you hope to accomplish here that you haven't done before?
Well, for me, writing a drama series is always about finding an environment that it has a very intense life and death kind of situation, and then putting ordinary people and seeing how they deal in an extraordinary situation. So I don't really have a political agenda. I'm not writing it about reforming the penal system or anything like that. I'm just looking for a place to tell great stories, and having done a medical show and a cop show,
St. Elsewhere and Homicide.
This was the logical descent into madness for me. So.
Well, there was a quote from you in which you said, slow decline into madness. Now,
yeah.
What is that?
Well, because of the nature of this show, all the stuff that I've never been able to do on commercial television is kind of oozing out of me. And I wrote all 8 of the first 8 myself, and so I really got so inside myself that I was like very non-communicative and really kind of got into the whole head of the thing, and it started to scare me because when you get too deep into any kind of writing, I think
it gets dark.
It gets dark, and you don't want to know that part of you exists, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Did you do anything to understand prison life?
I researched it a couple of years before I started writing it, and went to a bunch of prisons and talked to a lot of inmates and correctional officers, and yeah, I mean, I read a lot about it, and HBO has some great documentaries, all of which I watched, and so I really immersed myself.
Now, what's their interest? What are they trying to accomplish?
I think what they're trying to do is they would like to do our dramas, and I think their feeling is that the networks, the commercial networks, have all the kind of, they do a good job at it, you know, with ER and NYPD Blue and Law and Order. So I think their feeling is they have to they have to go that much further the distance to make people say, wait a minute, HBO is doing really original programming.
Would they have to go that much further in order to say, because we're on cable, we can be freer?
We can be freer. We can tell the stories in a much fuller way than you can, and than you could on a commercial network.
And nudity, nothing is.
I had no I had no censorship whatsoever. It was all about none whatsoever. It was all about tell the story the best way you can. And what I found was, and I don't know if this is because I've been in commercial television for 15, 16 years, that I started censoring myself, but it won't appear that way to anybody who watches it. But I actually would go, well, maybe that's too much, you know, maybe I should hold back on certain things. What I tried to do with the violence was imply violence rather than show violence. The language is a whole other matter. I mean, that's the way they speak, and it would be bad writing for me to have them saying,
sure.
Oh, shucks. And,
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Now, each episode will revolve around a certain storyline that deals with a certain theme.
Right.
It's going to be violence one week and sex another, and capital punishment the next, and drugs the next. And
yeah. And each individual, it's like a bunch of little short stories that all have characters that continue from week to week, but each little story has a beginning, middle, and end of its own, and it's all tied to the greater theme of that particular episode.
Do you have to make these characters likable?
No. Again, what HBO said to me was, if we don't care if they're likable as long as they're compelling. So my job was simply, well, let me say something else, which is, when I start writing a character, I always start with his or her heart. What makes them a human being? And then I dress them up in doctor clothes or prison uniforms or whatever it is. But when you pare us all down, I think ultimately, you know, we all have the same kind of energies and emotions going on inside us. And that's the other reason for telling this story is a prison is the world in small. You know what I mean? We're all in a kind of a prison in our daily lives. And so if by illuminating these lives and the intensity of these lives, maybe it'll reflect back on our own. I don't know. I mean,
how would that work? Give me an example of that.
Well, for example,
fear.
Yeah, I mean, base fear, loneliness. I mean, there's all those elements that these characters are experiencing, and how they're dealing with them in this intense situation. Hopefully, we'll say, well, geez, if I was in that situation, I would do that. But I'm in my situation, so hopefully, I'm being noble. I think there is a certain amount of nobility that comes out of people in moments of crisis, or not. And I think we're all guilty of being noble sometimes and not being noble other times. So,
here is a trailer. Take a look at this just to give you an example of what we're talking about. This is about a 1.5-minute trailer in which a prisoner changes cellmates from what he thinks is worst about only to find the new cellmate is something else.
I'm gonna have to get you one.
No, thanks.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna brand you myself.
It's about as dramatic as it gets, isn't it? Let me go back to the beginning for you.
Okay.
What brought you to television?
well, I was a starving playwright at the Williamstown Theater Festival, and I was having a play done up there, and Blythe Danner was doing a play on the main stage, and she brought her 2 children, small children, Gwyneth and Jake, to see the play, and they all liked it, and so they kept bugging Bruce Paltrow, the father,
And producer of St. Elsewhere.
and producer of St. Elsewhere, except at that point he was doing White Shadow. St. Elsewhere had yet to come about. And they kept saying, oh, you got to go see the play, you got to go see the play. And Bruce never came to see the play, and I think Blythe and Gwyneth and Jake just guilted him into giving me a job out of like, because I was starving. And so that's how I got into TV. Bruce hired me for St. Elsewhere. I went out to L.A. and did that for 6 years. And so it was all, had nothing to do with talent. It didn't even have to do with luck. It just had to do with,
So you're a writer for St. Elsewhere?
Yes, a writer-producer, yeah.
Now, did you say to yourself, listen, I got to eat, and so this is just fine for me, thank you. Bruce,
Yeah.
this is a lucky break for me.
I was thrilled. I thought I was going to get one script and make a little money. I said, how much do you make for these TV scripts? And he said, well, you're going to make about $17,000. And I went like, oh my God, because that year I'd made $5,000 as a playwright. And I thought I can live for 3 years now.
One script.
One script. I was like the happiest guy on the
So
planet.
one guy writes an entire script?
It depends on the show, yeah. It depends how it works. Yeah.
So, and then how did you get hooked up with Levinson and
What
Homicide?
happened was after St. Elsewhere went off the air, I moved back to New York, and desperate to move back to New York, and was just hanging out. And actually, I was going to go to Tuscany and
Hang out
in Tuscany. And I got a call that Barry Levinson had sold this idea to NBC, and they needed a guy to run the show, and it was on the East Coast. And I went, well, geez, I'm not going back to L.A., so I'll check it out. And again, I was lucky. I fell into a wonderful situation. Baltimore is a great town to shoot in.
Great characters.
Oh, that's so much, and the actors, we have a wonderful cast,
Yeah.
and so.
How is Homicide doing?
We're doing okay. We could be doing better. We're not. It's Fridays at 10. It's a hard night for us to find our audience, but we got the small audience we have is very loyal.
Do you
very
write
fierce.
scripts still?
Oh yeah,
for
definitely.
that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you'll write scripts for this?
Yeah, if
How
it
do you
comes
do
back.
all this?
Well, I get up at 5:30.
Do you really?
Yeah.
And start writing?
Start writing
At a
yeah.
computer?
No, I write longhand. Yeah. I went to a Jesuit high school. I learned all this discipline. I can't get rid of it.
You write every script longhand?
Yeah. And then I have an assistant who types it up and can. My handwriting is so awful.
And so you write from 5:30. You and a pot of coffee start writing at 5:30.
5:30. I get done about 10:30. I go in, then I change heads.
Yeah.
I
You
become
go in as an
producer guy.
executive. Yeah.
So.
Because you can't find somebody to write what you want?
Oh no! On Homicide, we have wonderful writers. We have we have 5 or 6 other writers on the show. It's just that when a show is being born, it needs a single vision. It needs one kind of point of view that's going to guide it and set it up, and then after that you find people who can. I mean, the truth is the writers on Homicide write their show better than I do now, so I just try to stay out of their way.
Why do you think that is? They're into the rhythm of the show?
I think so, yeah. You know, and they all live down in Baltimore, so they're all like, you know, they're really into it. So,
what do you like about television?
I love the fact that I can get pissed off about something and write the script and produce the script, and it'll go on the air, and 30 million people will see it. And I don't have to wait 2 years and go to 1,000 meetings and all that nonsense that happens with films. You know, I think that television is a great place for a writer to be, because you get, despite all of the demands, it's like writing a haiku. It's very, very limited, but within that limit, you can create some poetry.
Yeah, and do you desire to make movies, or?
No, I'm actually going to write 2 movies this year, but I have no great, like, oh God, that's what I really want to be doing. Yeah. I consider myself very blessed that I'm doing what I'm doing. So.
That you have an avenue to pour out your own
absolutely
talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Much success with this.
Well, thank you.
I'd love to have you come back and talk more.
Anytime.
Tom Fontana, HBO. The program's called Oz. It'll be on Saturday night at 11:30, and then appear regularly on Monday night at 11 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.